Good morning, Leadwerks engineers, and welcome to another exciting episode of Weekend Workshop. This day, we will be talking about the new FPS weapons pack, which is on the way, and we'll also be talking about upcoming plans for the design of Leadwerks 5.1, which is going to be a really interesting discussion. So last week, all the prizes are shipped now, including international orders. If you are receiving a package, not just the envelope of stickers, but if you're receiving the whole package, then I sent a tracking number to you through USPS. So you can tell exactly when that's arriving. A couple of people have gotten it already. Let's not spoil the surprise for anyone else yet, though. I did 10 bug fixes. So that means 97.7% of our issues are solved. I just need like a few more days probably of working on bug fixes, and then we'll have everything done that's going to be done right now. And then after that I'll be ready to go back into research and development for Leadwerks 5.1, which we'll be talking about later in this discussion. I added the requested modification to prefab behavior. So if you prefab orientations of subobjects are now stored persistently in the prefab itself. So, and as consequently, like if a prefab has a subobject, it can no longer be moved because that's always going to be loaded from the prefab file. We discussed this over the last couple of weeks, and I think people felt that that was the best choice. So please give it a try, and let me know if it's working well for you. That's available too. That's available right now in the 5.0.2 beta. That's on the beta branch on Steam. You need to opt into to get that, but you can get it right now and start using it. I added a new method called entity set player size, and that controls the size and some other parameters of the player physics. And a couple days ago, the FPS, the first-person shooter weapons pack, the Kickstarter campaign is now live. So that's been up for a couple of days. We'll talk about that too. Okay, so the set player size method, this lets you input the radius, the height, and the step height for the player. The default values for this are 0.4 for the radius, that's in meters, 1.8 for the height, which translates into about 6 feet, and then 0.51 for the step height. And I just added a little bit of extra height on the end, because that way if you have something that's 0.5 meters tall, then it'll always definitely step up that. I could have probably added a little bit less, like 0.501, and it would probably be fine, but I just wanted to make sure if something's half a meter tall, then you can always step up it. Okay, so first-person shooter weapons pack. The Kickstarter campaign is live now. We have some very high-quality weapons. These are from the same pack that the default automatic rifle came from. So that will also be included with like a scope and some other attachments. I think it has a grenade launcher, like an attachment underneath. And this is a big grenade launcher. This thing's pretty awesome. Crossbow, personal favorite. And there's also some melee weapons and a lot of items, like a lot of cool items. And I'll show you what I've got right now. Let's see. That might be the gun that comes with Leadwerks. Texture looks different though. They have, I think, 5 different hand versions of the clothing, and the I'm not done with the materials here, so like the metalness and stuff, the material on the gun looks funny. So that's something I have to do. And these are all stored in separate files. These are all in separate FBX files, so I have to like go through and merge and like fix a bunch of stuff. Um, let's see. And we have some other cool stuff in here that's like stuff you don't normally think about. You have hands carrying a candle. So that's the when you switch to it, this is the animation that plays. So this is when it like comes into view. So you could use that to carry around and light your way. Here's the crossbow. Yeah, that's awesome. Let's take a look at that animation in slow motion. Nice. Really cool stuff. Let's see what else we've got. We got a flashlight. No, the flashlight can even be used as a melee weapon. You can see there's an animation there for hitting something with it. You've got a grenade that you can throw. This is the get animation I want to see. Idle, run, throw. Let's see what that looks like.
Is there the actual grenade model for the projectile
Yeah.
mesh?
So let's see. Yeah, you can see the grenade there. And it looks like, I think it's supposed to be at that point. It's like once it gets there, it's supposed to be replaced with another mesh, and then one that actually gets thrown.
Or maybe it's behind the camera, so you would then just shoot at the projectile.
Oh, you might be right. Like it's yeah, like it leaves it behind the camera here, and you probably can't. Let's see where you can. Yeah, you're not going to see it at that point. Oh yeah. Okay. So it looks like this. So
I really wish. No, go ahead.
it leaves the animated grenade up there, and then what you do is you just it doesn't even have to be exact. You just shoot it from somewhere around here, and then the camera, and then when the hand comes into view, yeah, that makes sense.
I was gonna say I wish there was a first person view, but all first person view models can be different. So
Let's see. Is this the grenade launcher? Oh yeah, this thing's awesome. I want to see the reload animation for this. Recharge. Okay. Let's see what this looks like. No, that's pretty cool. Got a knife. Yeah, it's really nice. Yeah, it was very hard to find something suitable. So I'm really happy to get like this kind of quality for you. Shotgun. Two sniper rifles. This one has some cool camo on it. The other one doesn't have anything like that, but this has like this camouflage stuff. And then you have some other stuff like syringe. Let's see. I think this just has one. Yeah, this just has one animation, and this is just like an item that you use. Yeah, materials aren't done for all of these, so the metalness doesn't look right. But yeah, so this is just like you just if you select a syringe and to heal yourself, you just pull it out and use it. And I guess that animation will just play. Let's see. Oh yeah, and we have five variations on the textures. You have like a couple that are like military, and then you have like the Arctic kind of camo, and then you also have more like leather. You know, some stuff that looks more like a leather jacket. Which one of that? I think it. I don't know. It's hard to tell. You can see it. You'll see it on some of these because I used different hand textures for some of these.
So how are you gonna handle that? You just gonna supply the hand materials and just let the user pick what they want, or
I think so. I don't think it's there's really a. I don't think it's worth having like five different copies of the model. I think if you can
right?
just like choose which one you want and apply it to the model. See this one. This is where I did the roughness metalness map correctly. So that's why the shininess looks good. See here, you can see this these hands. This is more like a survivor game. And that's got a bunch of animations as well. We've also got sounds for this. Oh, I don't think I included them. Yeah, there's sounds too, and they're really nice. Especially I like the sound the grenade launcher makes. It's like this kind of I don't know. I can't make the sound, but it sounds very cool. Yeah, so all of that stuff will be included. That'll be available on Steam. The Kickstarter campaign is up right now, and we're at 6.5%. So if you want this to happen, then please back the Kickstarter campaign, and we'll do this. This isn't free for me to create for you because I mean I have to pay the artist for a license to distribute these, and it'll still take quite a lot of work to prepare everything for you. But if you want it, if you want this to happen, then you can back the Kickstarter campaign, and I will be able to bring that to you. It's right here. Um, Post a link here in the chat. I want to see the sniper rifle. Let's take a look. I showed one sniper rifle. Let's take a look at the other one. There's the other sniper rifle. And then I'll just apply one of these materials. And there it is. Let's play the animation. Yeah, they're all about 30, 40,000 polygons, which gives them really nice quality. And these don't have to, since these don't cast a shadow, it's okay to have like a more detailed mesh like this because it's just rendered once. And you can actually take these and do like run them through the mesh reducer, and you can make like a lower poly version of like the gun that you actually pick up. Maybe I'll include that as well because it's very easy to do. Yeah, this solves a so this solves a long standing issue. I mean, for the longest time we've been like struggling to get good first person shooter weapons in Leadwerks, and now we finally have that problem solved. So if you want this to happen, then please back the Kickstarter campaign, and I will be able to bring that to you. So thank you very much for your support on that. Okay, let's talk about Leadwerks 5.1. This is going to be interesting. Okay, so the state of the game industry right now is very strange because developers don't care about performance, um, and players are they've totally lost the trust of their own players. Players no longer trust developers. Um, and this kind of like last week, this sort of came to my attention because Threat Interactive did a video talking about MSAA and deferred rendering, and they mentioned Leadworks as a kind of a citation of things done right. And that was something I've been saying for the longest time, for like more than 10 years. And everyone just ignores me. And now this guy's pointing out that other developers, they just say, "Oh no," they just stick bananas in their ears, and they just don't. I don't know. Like they don't have any ability to discern reality. Even if you show them, like even if you show them it working, like then you come back a week later and they're just back to, oh, deferred rendering, you can't do it. I don't know. I've just given up on trying to convince them. And their heads are so far up their own asses that players, like, they know something, they can tell something's wrong, but developers are telling them, no, everything's fine, you're just stupid.
You just need a new graphics card.
So as a result, you have a lot of Threat Interactive is just one of them, but there's a lot of YouTube channels that are getting very popular because of this kind of stuff. This is very strange, and we've never seen anything like happen like this before. So that the players, they know that they're being, like, they know they're being lied to, but they don't know enough about the details. They're not graphics developers, so they don't know enough about the details of what's actually going on. But they know that it's not true. They know they're being lied to, which is a very, like, frustrating situation to be in, because it's like this person supposedly knows more than you about this topic, and yet they're telling you something that you know is not true. Like, this is the perfect example. This is a perfect representation of what's going on. Okay, guess which one of these people is the developer? The quote-unquote developer. Anybody want to guess? Is anybody writing anything in the chat? Come on, guys, it's a 50. You've got a 50% chance of being right.
The guy that doesn't look like who showers, because who has time to shower when you have code to write?
Okay, so the guy on the left, he's I think, what's his name? We'll look at his video in a minute. He's a person who makes videos about video games from the perspective of a player, and he's pissed. The guy on the right is a quote-unquote developer. He knows he knows how to he knows how to click on all the checkboxes in Unreal. He's very smart, you see. And he's telling you why, he's telling you how it is. This is a good representation. Let me show you the video. This guy is the Leadwerks. He's some Finnish guy. He's pretty funny.
Now, at this point in the script and research, I stumbled upon one Dallas, who claimed to be a developer with a certain bias for Unreal Engine. And that's fine. Hell, the man even points out a couple of things I did as well.
You see, Nanite and Lumen are not bad, and they're also not broken. They're simply being used on projects which don't fully take advantage of it.
However, at that point I looked at some of his other videos, and in one of them, what do you think I found?
Another thing, zooming in 500% on a blade of grass and calling it proof that anti-aliasing is bad, buddy, you just look like an idiot.
Well, that looks pretty familiar, I gotta say. Anti-aliasing, the friend and foe of gaming, aiming to provide greater visual clarity free of jaggies or pixel stair-stepping at the cost of some performance. Oh, that's a screen grab from my video. Oh, but what is this? Dallas cropped the image? Now, why would he do that? Oh, because of course, in every Leadwerks video, Leadwerks puts a logo right there. Now, of course, anyone could have replicated that image. Okay.
Now, if it looks fuzzy from the actual gameplay camera, sure, call them out. Again, I will call them out with you. But blanket complaints about anti-aliasing or grass textures across every genre, wrong.
Oh, but this. looks a bit more familiar. Now see, it's one thing to use dithering for LOD transitions far away. And the closer it gets to the camera, the worse it gets. But it's a whole other thing to leave that effect on full display shamelessly. Case in point, Stalker 2. Now I can only hazard a guess as to why dithering effect is still left on the trees. Oh no, Dallas again cropped the image to hide my logo. It's also funny that Dallas starts the video showcasing other creator thumbnails and yet mine is nowhere to be seen. How weird. There's also no text in the description or on screen to credit the source he took these screen grabs from. In fact, cropping of the image to hide my logo becomes not just negligent, but deliberate. Removal of credit. Now that's a piece of shit coward move, Dallas.
Buddy, you just look like an idiot.
And yet what's more interesting is that Dallas uses this image for reference to
Zooming in 500% on a blade of grass and calling it proof that anti-aliasing is bad.
However, in Yamek's video, this image
So if you zoom in on grass and it looks bad, you just look like an idiot. Did you hear that?
Yep. No, when you put the two people next to each other, it's like I didn't know who the developer was, but it's like I trust the guy with the long hair. He
Grass
sounds
and
like-
calling it proof that anti-aliasing is bad.
However, in Yamek's video, this image is a piece of shit coward move, Dallas.
Buddy, you just look like an idiot.
And yet what's more interesting is that Dallas uses this image for reference to
Zooming in 500% on a blade of grass and calling it proof that anti-aliasing is bad.
However, in Yamek,
You just look like an idiot. Zooming in on grass. Little fake laugh in there. Like that condescending fake laugh. Let's listen to that again.
You just look like an idiot.
and funny that Dallas starts the video showcasing other creator thumbnails and yet mine is nowhere to be seen. How weird. There's also no text in the description or on screen to credit the source he took these screen grabs from. In fact, cropping of the image to hide my logo becomes not just negligent, but deliberate. Removal of credit. Now that's a piece of shit coward move, Dallas.
Buddy, you just look like an idiot.
And yet what's more interesting is that Dallas uses this image for reference to
Zooming in 500% on a blade of grass and calling it proof that anti-aliasing is bad.
however,
Zooming in 500% on a blade of grass and calling it proof that anti-aliasing is bad. Like, how else would you clearly show it in a video? So this like, I mean, this is just like, I'm using that little part of that video to demonstrate something, but this is like, there's a lot of friction going on. Like, these people on the left, they know something's wrong, but they're not developers. And so they're starting to like poke around and they're like wondering like what, you know, what's the problem? And they're starting to like poke around in like rendering analytics tools, and they're starting to download game engines and do like some basic tests themselves to figure out what's going on. Because these people on the right are have their heads so far up their own asses that, you know, they know they're being lied to. The person on the right is like, I'm not sure what their motivations are. I can't understand it. Brainwashed is the best is like the most generous I could say. The person on the left, they know something's wrong, but they're not a developer. That's kind of the state of the industry right now. That's why, you know, this person himself, he doesn't really matter. What matters is that these videos are getting they're getting a lot of traction by saying this stuff. It's something that is resonating with players themselves. So that's why I say developers don't care about performance and players no longer trust developers. Clear?
Clear.
So, basically, the feeling is in 2016 things were pretty good, and then everything took a giant turn for the worse. Basically, it was decided, the industry decided that having completely dynamic indirect lighting was worth any price. So as a general thing, I mean, there's a lot of different techniques, so it's hard to categorize these things, but as a very general thing, like, no matter what you're doing, it involves very heavy pixel shaders, which cause a lot of lower performance. And the solution to that is upscaling and temporal anti-aliasing. The result is something that looks worse and runs worse than what we had in 2016. There's another way, and that's to just focus on mostly static indirect lighting, focus on lightweight pixel shaders, use MSAA and native resolution instead of having to being forced into temporal techniques. And the results of this is it looks great and it runs fast. The only downside is the indirect lighting is not completely dynamic. The industry made the decision that there was no price too high to pay to have dynamic indirect lighting. And players are saying, no, it's actually not worth it. So you do have some things that are doing things a different way today. Like Half-Life Alyx is one example. Most of their lighting in that is just static light maps. So I probably wouldn't want to go that way, but it's an interesting example. Battlefield 6, I feel, does a pretty good job of. It's a pretty well optimized engine. It doesn't use any crazy like mesh shader techniques, like Unreal's nanite system. It just uses they just use more vertices, and they have like a lot of rocks, little objects on the ground, but it's no special technique. So in other words, like the ones on the right, basically the approach they're taking is, well, we have more hardware. We have better hardware now. Let's use it to render more vertices and higher resolution textures. Death Stranding, they just use, I looked it up this morning, they just use environment probes. It's probably pretty comparable to what Leadwerks 5.0 does. Crytek, this is a screenshot from what's that Polish RPG? Kingdom Come, Deliverance 2. So that's CryEngine, and they do have a sparse voxel octree solution that's kind of dynamic. I think you could probably achieve the same thing with light maps and have better results. But it's it's like it's a lot of the industry decided that to go the way on the left, and players are saying that it wasn't really worth it. They're saying that we had a period where hardware was pretty good and people just got accustomed to turning all the settings on high and not worrying about it because it just ran fast. So I guess overwhelmingly, like, the sentiment I'm seeing is that the whatever increased theoretical increase in graphical fidelity we're getting is not worth the price that it's costing in terms of performance. And the developers are just completely oblivious to that. People like the guy on the right, they won't listen to their own customers. He knows all the right buttons to click on. He knows all the right, I mean that literally, like he knows all the right he's a very good developer. He knows how to click on all the checkboxes in Unreal. He's a very good developer. Very serious. So, with that in mind, I mean, Leadwerks is already sort of going in this direction, but we could go in the direction on the right even harder. Image stability, we already have that because we use MSAA. No data streaming, we already do that, and that's worked out very well. The one thing I could do is I could improve the loading times, which I haven't put a lot of effort. I just haven't really tried to do that, but I could probably improve that, especially for HDDs. And the one thing that we could do that would make the biggest difference is to focus on making more lightweight pixel shaders. So overall, it's like, it seems apparent that like the best way to go forward is to use the tried and tested techniques that we know are the most efficient, which is what we were using in 2016. We were using those techniques because they were the most efficient at the time. Hardware gets better. Some people upgrade, some people don't. But those are still the most efficient techniques. We can increase the resolution of textures, we can use more vertices, but those are still the most efficient techniques, so those are still going to give us the most bang for our buck. So it seems like it makes more sense to just refine these techniques, polish them, instead of completely replacing them with things that are less efficient. So most of your improvement is just simply achieved by using higher texture and mesh resolutions. Okay, so one thing I could do here that would be very good is to develop this, just use some low-end hardware for the development machine. If anybody has an old GeForce 980, I would love to get my hands on one of those. If you want to donate it, if it's just sitting around and you are not using it, I would love to get my hands on a GeForce 980. I'd like to get a GeForce 700 series card. Any old cards like that, 1060 even, if you have one you're not using. If you want to donate it, I would use that for development. No temporal techniques. Okay, cool. That's easy enough. We're using one temporal technique right now. But the volumetric lighting post-processing shader, that's if I switch to a deferred renderer, then that's going to get replaced anyways. Okay, so here's where we make a decision. We say, okay, we're not going to try to do large-scale simulations because it's unlikely that any of our users would be able to create a game on that scale. So let's just say we're not gonna try to do that, because that allows us to make a lot of optimizations. We don't have to think about data streaming between the hard drive RAM and VRAM. I could greatly simplify the internal world scene graph that is used, because I don't have to account for things like I don't have to account for anything bigger than 16 square kilometers. So that's the biggest crisis map is the size. It would be the limit of what we can do. So we're just going to say, okay, 32-bit floating points, that's the limit, and that's fine. When we make decisions like that, then we can actually like move forward and make something better. I would like to replace I actually did some tests. I think I can actually replace the asynchronous calling thread with just optimized C++ code. If you write C++ code and you write it like a compute shader, it runs at an unbelievably fast pace. So I think I can actually do that, and that would simplify things quite a lot. That would simplify like the data management of the engine, and it would just make it less prone to bugs. It would be a lot better. Okay, so how can we optimize the pixel shaders? Well, if I switch to a deferred lighting system like we had before, I think that'll probably work better. Same lighting code, I'm just moving it to a different place basically. I think we'll end up needing medium, like 2 versions of the post-processing effects, like a low and a high version. I don't think, because you do, I mean, you do get a better image quality with a lot of those things if you use more sampling. So like SSAO and Bloom are two I can think of especially, that they look a lot better now, but they're also more expensive. So I think having like a high and a low quality version of those post processing effects, um, that would be, um, that's one thing where we would have to just like split that performance. We're not going to get something that runs well on both. Um, and then I'm actually thinking we might go back to clip map rendering for terrain. I'll show you how that works. Leadwerks 4, it uses a clip map. What it does is it renders one big image for the entire terrain, and then it'll render like a series of images around the camera's view. And so it renders these and then it reuses them, and it only changes when the player like moves a certain distance. So it's not constantly drawing these. It's only drawing them, one, at most like one each frame. And as the player moves around, just based on the distance, it will sample textures based on the pixels distance from on the terrain from the camera. And that makes the terrain rendering extremely efficient, because it's just looking up one material instead of having to go through like 4 materials. Because right now in Leadwerks 5, if you look down at the ground, you will see the frame rate will go down, because the terrain is relatively expensive to render because it's a heavier pixel shader. The downside of this is that terrain is not perfectly sharp if you're using clip maps. It can appear lower resolution than what we have now. But at the same time, like Leadwerks 4 also uses 1024 by 1024 clip maps. We could just increase that that clip map size, and that would increase that clarity. My thinking was, great, we have better hardware now. We no longer have to use tricks like this. We can just render the terrain perfectly per pixel. But if we use this technique, it would make that terrain shader a lot more lightweight, which seems to be what people want. Another thing that's interesting is this would make it easier for roads and stamps to be rendered. So this is something I experimented with in Leadwerks 4, and it never turned into a feature because it's kind of redundant. These are a stamp is just like an image being baked into the clip map when it is rendered, and so it just appears everywhere. They're very, very fast in the final rendering pass, because it's just this is all just one texture. This is all just a single texture being drawn. But you could have, like, this is basically like decals. The reason I didn't do this, that this never became a feature, is because it was kind of redundant, because we had decals. So decals did the same thing as this. But this, if it was baked into the clip maps when they are rendered, then you could actually bake in a displacement layer. You could have so you would have like color, normal, metalness, roughness, displacement. And you could have a displacement, you could have these affect the displacement. So you could have decals that, for like a crater or something that adds displacement to the terrain. And it would actually affect the geometry if you have tessellation enabled. This would also be a very, very good way to render roads, because you would just draw the road polygons onto this clip map, and then it would it would just be pixels. So this would still just be a single texture that gets looked up once. So Quake Enemy Territory, I think, is the first major title I can think of that used this technique. Battlefield 6, I believe, is still using this technique. And this would give us more lightweight terrain shaders, and it might be something that works better with a. I mean, it's hard to say because all these things are interconnected. Um, but that would give us a way. That would also give us a way to do roads and decals, like basically terrain decals with displacement that affect displacement. It would probably be a different entity type because than a decal. Um, but this might be a better way to go forward. And again, like instead of replacing the technique, we're not replacing the techniques. We're just using the super efficient techniques that we had to use around 2015, and we're just increasing our resolutions of everything. So in this case, we could just use higher resolution clip maps. It would still be super efficient, and if you have hardware that can handle a 4096 clip map, then cool, great. But that's kind of what I'm thinking. Oh yeah, this would also enable. It would make it easier for me to implement terrain mesh blending, which is what you're seeing here. Like the color and the normal kind of blend together very nicely. It makes things look very natural. This could be done as a post-processing effect, basically. And because the clip map just uses this series of images, it would be very, very easy to just render that onto the pixels that are marked as, that they in the G buffer that they should be blended with the terrain. So I think that could work really well. Again, I want to replace the culling thread with just a brute force method that's very, very optimized. I think it'll take basically no time. And simplify I want to replace the scene octree with a simpler 2D grid system. This wouldn't scale to like a planetary. This would not scale to like planetary scale. But if I say, okay, I'm not going to try to do that, then it's fine. It would be a lot simpler and less prone to errors. Continuing development would include baked light maps for indirect lighting combined with dynamic shadow maps. And I was actually thinking, like, you can still have dynamic lights and just have them not affect the indirect lighting. So if you have like if you shoot like some energy ball or something, like a gun that has like some kind of energy projectile and it emits light, and you shoot it down the hallway, that light would still be completely dynamic with dynamic shadows. It just wouldn't affect indirect lighting. But you know what else you could do is you could also have that light map just continuously update slowly. And like the changes to the sun angle, if you're doing like a day-night cycle, are so slow that you could have the light maps just slowly updating, and it would follow along with the world sunlight if it was moving slowly. And you could do like a complete like dynamic day-night cycle with that. It just wouldn't respond very quickly. It wouldn't be something that responds very fast to changes in lighting. But it would respond to slow changes in lighting, which would be perfect for a day-night cycle. So starting with static light maps and then experimenting with, making that dynamic, but on a very slow timeline. That could be a very good approach. Okay, let's look at the comments. Same thing for older. I have like an AMD 480 to test with, and also I have some Intel integrated chips to test with. So Leadwerks 5 is very very optimized in terms of it eliminates the CPU bottleneck that a lot of that most renderers suffer from. It does that really really well, so it'll handle large numbers of objects very very easily where other engines will crawl. But it's not optimized for like I did sort of I made the assumption that hardware was going to increase, was going to improve, and that we were going to want to use that. I didn't pay that much attention to the pixel shaders because I just figured, well, let's increase the quality, and however long it takes to render, that's how long it takes based on your hardware. But our hardware is better now, so we don't have to be as constrained. Um, what it's sounding to me like, looking at both this stuff and just talking to you guys, it sounds like um, people value having very lightweight pixel shaders. Um, so if we make that a priority and design things around that, um, in some cases we'll be compromising the quality a little bit. Like with the terrain, like you might not have like pixel perfect terrain in the distance. There might be some points where the clip map is not giving you one pixel per screen pixel. Um, but I mean, we can adjust the resolution of that clip map to provide something that's pretty close to perfect. Um, and it would be much more efficient to render because you're just, instead of figuring out which materials to render for each pixel and then fetching them and sampling a bunch of textures, you would just be sampling these the clip map for the distance you're at. So this is like extremely efficient. And if it's efficient at lower resolutions, then it's going to be efficient at higher resolutions too. It's still going to be the most efficient way to do it. So that's kind of what I'm thinking for Leadwerks 5.1. It's more optimization, but more like optimization that's along the lines of what people will expect, and that you don't have to do like a stress test to compare it to another engine. It's more like you'll just see it immediately. And if we make some small compromises on quality, it sounds like that's something that people prefer. Like the way you increase the quality is just increase the texture resolution, increase the mesh resolution, use more vertices, and then I think the one part where we're gonna have to like split that is we'll need like a low res and a high res version of the post processing shaders, because that's not something I can really optimize. It's very highly dependent on the hardware speed.
What will
So
determine what version of the post processing will get used?
just a quality setting. Maybe it'll be built
Okay,
into the engine. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll just be something that's in the template. I'm not sure yet.
gotcha.
What do you guys think? Mustache guy brutally frame mugged by actual dev. I don't know what that means. Also, I mean, do you guys agree? Do you disagree?
No, I agree.
Feedback, guys. Downvote. What do you disagree with? Coolix, what does your arrow pointing down signify? It's so hard to get feedback. Maybe the people in the YouTube comments will tell me what they think.
Maybe. So with with the new shaders system, you going back to Leadwerks 4 where everything's just in one file as a .shader file,
No.
or no? Because we did a little talk about how shaders were going to be a lot simpler. But I didn't know
No,
like how
that
simple
would
you
not
want.
be good because that would involve a ton of redundant code, like copied across different files. You would not want to do that.
Gotcha. I didn't know how simple you wanted to go.
Well, take some time to think about it and let me know your thoughts, please. All right, so here's the port where I ask for reviews on Steam, and I thank everyone who has added their review for Leadworks 5 on Steam, which includes Primar Rus, Aztec Shaman, Ananto, Pridrito, Nijek999, WW, Two Cats Yelling, Comunista Safato, Reap Blue, Mapache 3D, Tapani Neoxa, Kema 401, Alkavir, Arkenstone, sent you a tracking number, Garlic Waffle, I think he already got his prize package, 979, Materine, and Dumage. Yeah, so reviews on Steam are very, very important. So if you can add your review on Steam, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. I will read your names out every week. Thank you, and please add your review on Steam. And if you would like to see the FPS weapons pack on, if you would like to see this happen, please back the campaign on Kickstarter. I need to pay a licensing fee to the artist to be able to use these, so it's not free for me. So I appreciate your support, and yeah, let's see. We need pictures of the water bottle. XRT. Okay, so he agrees. What do you mean? Will it be available? Those are only shipping in the U.S. because I don't know what the shipping outside the U.S. will be. Actually, I do know what the shipping is now because I've done it. Um, the shipping outside the U.S. is about $20 on each of those. So it's right now I'm just doing U.S. shipping, and I only have 4 of those. Yeah, the I got you guys some nice stuff. These that I sent out, these are 128 gigabytes.
Did you actually like test them to see
Yes,
if they're actually
I tested one.
good? You never know with those.
Yeah, I wanted you guys to have the best.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions this week? All right. So if that's all, thank you for joining. Again, reviews on Steam are always appreciated. And if you would like to see the FPS weapons package come to life, then please back the Kickstarter campaign. There's a few more weeks to do it. So, yeah, thanks, guys. Let's see what thumbs up. Okay, cool.